Hey guys, welcome back to another tutorial in the APFe tutorial series. Here we're going to talk to you about the online updates option in the tools menu and walk you through what each one of these options do. These are basically online updates, which means that when you're taking a roster and you want to play it online, when I'm working on my roster for the leagues that I play in, or the league that I play in, that this menu here, this screen here is very useful because it allows me to manipulate the roster and make quick changes on the fly so that it works online. Okay, this is somewhat similar to the bulk updates options, but these are more specific to the online changes to make the game work online. So we're going to walk through each one. First one here is your generic to legends option, and what this does is it's going to update all of the non-created player, non-cap players, non-star players, and generic players, and sets their type to legend for all teams. Okay, so any player that's not a created player, that's not a star player, and also is a generic player, okay, their type is going to be set to legends. Okay, the legends to generics button here is basically going to update all of your legend type players and sets their type to generic for all teams. Same thing here. These are the same thing, obviously. If you're using it just for the team, the current team loaded, then this T here is the same thing that we just went through, but it's just for this team. These without the T are for the entire roster. Okay. Starter created. What that does is it takes all of your star players and sets their type to created for all teams. Copper to bronze. Very, very intuitive here. It takes all of your copper players, which are the players that have one or more abilities and don't have a star. Okay, so if your players, we call it copper, so the game doesn't have copper, right? The game has gold, silver, and bronze, but in a lot of the communities out there, they use the copper star to signify the players that are generics basically, but they have one or more abilities. Okay, so what this button does, it takes all of your coppers and it makes them bronze star players. And I use this a lot because what this does is allows me, when I'm in bulk updates and I want to apply ability boosts, the ability boosts will be applied to players that are stars. Okay, so if you want to have your players' abilities boosted, then they'll get boosted if they basically are a certain star in the game. Okay, and all of your ratings will change depending on you being a bronze. So a copper in our leagues is basically a bronze player. So we want to have all of the abilities and things to reflect a bronze player. So what I typically do is I go in here and I set all of my copper players to bronze, do my mass updates, and then switch them back to uh, a generic basically after that. Okay, so that's copper to bronze. That's just for your current team. Caps to created is going to update all of your created players that are real created players, and it's going to set them to the created type. Okay, this is what you want to do. So in the new APFE, what's new is this cap column here. This was never here before. And before, all we would have is the type. So you can go to type, player type, and you can change the player type to created. But just because you change the player's type to created for Tony Warner in this scenario, doesn't mean that they're really a cap, which is a created player in the game. So created players in the game, I'll give you some background. Created players in the game are saved in a totally different section. And why that is because you can actually, as you guys know, when you're in the game and you're creating a created player, you can actually change the created player's name to whatever you want in the game, right? So you're not just picking a name from the database. So when you're in the game, if you think about it, it allows you to make whatever edits you want to those created player names. Well, those created players are saved in a different location in the file, right? So when you actually have a created player, you can actually make those changes to the player's name in the editor. And I'm not sure how perfect it works, but the bottom line is that a cap is really different than the created type. They should both match, which is what takes me back to the online updates. So you want to make sure that your caps are set to the created type, but that's the difference. There's a player type and there's the cap. And the cap is the real deal. The cap is what really is a created player. And that's new to APFe. Okay? Star to gold, what that does is it updates all of your star players and it sets them to the gold star. This is useful when you're trying to play musical chairs with your roster and put all of your caps, all your 20 caps on your team. So when you go in and you create your roster for online mode, if you want to put all of your players on one team, then you have to kind of shuffle around and take your bronze players and then set them to gold or whatever. So I take all my players, I set them to gold using this button. Bronze to none, what that does is it sets all of your bronze players to no star, basically. Sets them to none. And then star to bronze, it takes all your star players and sets them to bronze. So a lot of these here are for when you're moving around players so that you can fit all of your created players on your roster when you're making changes to an online roster for use with online, basically. And that's it. This is a very useful tool I use whenever I'm playing in my online leagues. It's a quick way to make changes and to make sure that your roster is being built with the right amount of players so that you can go online and it works without any issues. So let me know if you have any questions or feedback or comments in the comment section. Hit that like button, subscribe button, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.